Alright, y'all, welcome back to another one. Today, we got Cosgrove. If only they knew what really just happened. Before we get into the video, make sure y'all know they subscribe. Let's go and check this video out.
A blessing in disguise. Something that seems bad or unlucky at first, but results in something good happening later. It might appear to be a misfortune initially, but then you eventually realize that it was the best thing that could have happened in hindsight. Here are 3 blessings in disguise in NBA history. Enjoy the video.
3 blessings.
In the beginning of the 06-07 NBA season, the Boston Celtics didn't exactly have the best start, losing 6 out of their first 7 games. And it was only made worse when Paul Pierce went down with an injury shortly after, in December of 06. The team struggled to stay afloat without their all-star, resulting in an 18-game losing streak. The Celtics finished the 06-07 season with the 2nd worst record in the entire league. And at that point, Paul Pierce was unsure whether or not he wanted to stay in Boston. Quote, "It was definitely a low point," Pierce said in a recent interview. "I just thought I didn't see a future in Boston when I was looking at it." Due to the Celtics finishing the season with a 24-58 record, they at least had the draft lottery to look forward to. But unfortunately, even with a terrible record like that, it didn't really translate that well to the lottery like they hoped for, getting only the 5th pick, which pretty much guaranteed no Greg Oden or Kevin Durant for them. Celtics fans were initially pissed when they realized that they lost out on the opportunity to get either of those players. And here's a picture of head coach Doc Rivers and GM Danny Ainge immediately after finding out that they would only be getting the 5th pick in the 2007 NBA draft. This was right after the lottery, and as you can see, they were extremely disappointed.
Pick number 5 goes to the Boston Celtics.
I was bummed. I mean, I was down at that moment. I was like, oh man.
But in hindsight, the bad bounce in the lottery proved to be a blessing for Boston, as Pierce said that if the Celtics had landed Oden or Durant, then he probably would have been looking to move on. But instead, Boston's poor luck in the lottery ignited conversations about maybe acquiring other players. Danny Ainge really wanted to go after Kevin Garnett, but there was one problem. Quote, "KG didn't want to come to Boston with just him and Paul," says Ainge. He didn't think that was enough, so KG was reluctant at that minute to commit his future. He just had 1 year left on his contract. He didn't want to come to Boston and make a long-term commitment based on that, and we weren't going to pay the price that it took to get KG without a long-term commitment from him. So Ainge decided to go a different direction that could maybe help entice KG a little more. They made a move for Ray Allen. They selected Jeff Green with the 5th overall pick, and then sent Green along with Delonte West and Wally Zerviak to Seattle in exchange for Allen, as well as the 35th overall pick in that draft, Glenn Davis. Ainge said that he had a gut feeling that Paul and Ray would be a lot more attractive to KG, and ultimately it was, as the Celtics acquired Kevin Garnett shortly after,
That would be crazy. If they did get higher, could have had Kevin Durant. I don't know. Maybe something could have been different if Oden wasn't picked. I don't know. If he wasn't picked first.
Ended up paying off big time. Now, while it would have been nice to get KG, you gotta remember, if they wound up with the 1st or 2nd pick, then the trades for Allen and Garnett would never have happened, also meaning that there wouldn't have been a 17th championship banner, or at least in 2008.
Yeah.
Back in 1977, the Portland Trail Blazers went up against the Philadelphia 76ers in the NBA Finals, with the Sixers taking the first 2 games of the series. In fact, they did so pretty convincingly, especially in Game 2 where they won by 18 points. However, something happened near the end of Game 2 that ended up being a blessing in disguise for the Blazers. Daryl Dawkins threw Trailblazers forward Bob Gross to the ground. It appeared that that was the extent of it all, but Dawkins wasn't finished. He suddenly went after Gross and threw a punch. Then it was at that moment when Trailblazers enforcer Maurice Lucas stuck up for his teammate, as Lucas and Dawkins proceeded to square off before other players quickly intervened. The game had already been pretty much decided at that point, with the Sixers up by 20 with just under 5 minutes left. Now the Sixers might have took a 2-0 series lead that night, but from that point on, it was as if the Blazers flipped a switch. That fight seemed to reinvigorate them. This brawl is commonly looked upon as the turning point in the series. Even Sixers guard World B. Free said himself in a recent interview, "I believed it changed the series."
It was time for the script to be flipped. Yeah, no, it's the script. They wrote that. He said it's time for them. It's time for them
had
to
a
get
chip on their
script.
shoulders after that game.
He
He continued by saying,
That's
when
why
we
they
had
look a
that
little down
fight,
bad
their
at the
team
beginning.
took on another whole image. It wasn't the same team we saw the first two games. They got a little cockiness when they walked on the court for that third game. Sonny Hill, who worked on the CBS broadcast team, had this to say: "That incident definitely changed the series. What happened is that it took away the Sixers' intimidation factor. And they weren't kidding. Portland would go on to win Game 3 by 22 points, and then go on to win Game 4 by 32 points. In the end, after that fight, they won the next 4 games in a row to win the NBA championship."
The brawl may have changed the
crazy.
series.
I think it maybe let them know, Philadelphia, that we weren't going to lay down for them.
Down 2-0 to Philly in the title series, the Blazers returned to the Coliseum for Game 3, and Luke knew he was in Dawkins' head from the introduction.
Daryl Dawkins didn't know what was going to happen, and he stuck his hand out to
That
shake
was
his
sad.
hand, and Daryl shook his hand, and Daryl was a non-factor from that point on.
Maurice Lucas was considered one of the toughest players in the NBA. Bill Walton may have won Finals MVP, but it was Lucas who turned things around for Portland. It's a game that should have given the Sixers momentum, considering they won that game by 18 points, on top of the fact that it gave them a 2-0 lead in the series. But the winning team ended up losing in the long run, as it was actually Portland who gained momentum from that game, and they had
It'd be
this
like
fight
that.
to thank for it.
It'd be
Right
like
before
that
the
though
start of the
sometimes.
2012-2013 NBA season, Steph Curry, then 24 years old and entering his 4th season, signed a 4-year, $44 million contract
What happened
extension
with
with the
Curry this
Warriors, which might seem like nothing in hindsight, but at the time, Curry was battling ankle injuries, so the Warriors actually felt they were taking
I
a little bit
remember
of a
that.
risk
Yeah.
by giving him that contract. Keep in mind, Curry missed 40 games of the 2011-2012 season after spraining his ankle multiple times and had to have surgery for the second consecutive offseason, so you can understand the level of concern the Warriors had. Nevertheless, they still offered him a contract they believed was fair. The Warriors were not going to give Curry the max, and with Curry unsure about his ankle himself, knew that he just had to take that deal as it was the smart thing to do, which turned out to be one of the best bargains in NBA history when Curry suddenly blossomed out of nowhere. Curry's team-friendly extension paved the way for the Warriors to build a super team. It freed them up to extend Klay Thompson and re-sign Draymond Green, saving them from having to choose between one or the other. It also saved them from having to sacrifice Andre Iguodala. The Warriors then had the cap space to sign Kevin Durant when he was a free agent in 2016, all because their MVP was only making $11 million per season.
should've
Curry's
stayed.
contract allowed them to add one of the greatest players of all time in their prime. Here's what Bob Myers had to say, quote, "The fact that he became who he was while on that contract helped us give him a team he could win with." Again, when Curry signed his first extension in 2012, it was considered a risky
That's great.
investment for the Warriors.
'Cause he
But
could've-
looking back, it might be weird to say, but maybe Curry's ankle problems proved to be the key to the Golden State Warriors dynasty.
I guess. Maybe in a way. But that's just Curry. They probably just finally he probably had to probably change his trainings. He probably just changed his training and he started wearing them ankle braces. Cause I'm pretty sure he still wear them to this day, I think. Y'all let me know. I'm pretty sure he still wear them to this day. I think he was wearing them in a game. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, that is kind of crazy though. But hey, make sure y'all like, subscribe, and I'll see y'all in the next one.